Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, What If World. So today we're going to be going over part 4 of What If Deku had a nuclear explosion quirk. Where we left off, Deku was getting beaten by the Nomu, and All Might just arrived. He said, "Don't worry students, why? Because I am here," and then ripped off his tie and with an angry face. Okay, so now All Might immediately rushes, takes down a couple of villains, and picks up young Izuku and getting him away from the Nomu. He then proceeds to start fighting the Nomu, punching it constantly, over and over again. But the Nomu was just absorbing all of his power. He just kept on punching, and then Shigaraki told All Might about the shock absorption and regeneration. All Might then decided to start going beyond 100%, using more power, hitting the Nomu over and over again, pushing it back. He just kept on hitting, until eventually he nearly got rid of all of the shock absorption. And because of the Deku's quirk, All Might didn't try, because he was later, and Deku's quirk, All Might didn't try to suplex the Nomu again, so the Nomu didn't go through the portal and grab his sides, so he didn't get hurt even more. So he didn't use as much power, so he kept on fighting, chucking the Nomu into the air, slamming onto the ground, and then using one last mighty blow with 1,000,000% of his power, punching it in the stomach, sending it flying through the roof of the USJ and out and through a bunch of clouds. Shigaraki was scratching his neck, saying, "No, you're cheating! Wow, how you're cheating? This can't be real." And then he tries to go after All Might barely standing, trying to hold on to his muscle form for as long as he can. Then the heroes arrive just as Toma is about to attack All Might, and Snipe shoots Toma Shigaraki 4 times in each of his limbs, and then oh, God's sake. And then Kurogiri teleports them out of there. So the USJ attack ending the defeat. After that, Kirishima and a couple of the others were going over to see All Might and thank him, but he was about to turn into his skinny form, and Cementos would be able to cover him in time, so no one saw it. No one saw his skinny form except from Deku, who was standing near him, who already knew about One for All and how he was injured. After that, All Might was able to get away without anyone noticing in his skinny form, and they all went back to the school. They were told that they had a week to train. Well, they had a bit of time off, and they were allowed to train because of the attack. After that, Deku and Bakugo every day went out and started training with their quirks, and sometimes even invited Momo. After a week had passed, they were allowed to go back, but then to find out they were going to have another 2 weeks of training for the upcoming sports festival. Everyone was excited about the sports festival to finally show off their quirks to everyone in the world. They did another 2 weeks of even more intense training over and over again. They were using spicy foods to make their explosions bigger, more powerful. Deku was constantly setting off massive explosions, trying to get his arms more adjust to his bigger explosions. He was also working on his physical body to be able to keep up. Momo decided to start training on her own and was doing quite well with the creation, and was able to start creating bigger objects and with less of a power. And she also learned a bit of advice from Deku how to actually absorb the creations she made back into her body so she can make more. After the 2 weeks of training, everyone arrives back and are given their UA sports uniforms. Well, UA sports kits. They all get ready, and then they're called out when midnight announces class 1A. Everyone gets so much more excited than all the other classes, and the other classes are annoyed by this. Okay. Then the class representative gets called up, and Deku is actually called to stage because he's more confident. He goes up there and delivers a good speech, saying he says he's gonna win, but he wants everyone else to try their best to take him down, and that he gets loads of cheers from the audience, and everyone's getting more fired up. After that, the first event is announced, the race. Everyone gets underneath the tunnel and starts lining up. As soon as they get told to go, Deku blasts up to the top of the roof, getting out of the way of everyone else, and then starts using explosions to fly through out of the tunnel. They go along until they get to the robots. He takes a couple down easily and then blasts up to the top of a 0-pointer and uses a massive explosion, destroying the head of one and making it fall down. He then goes past it to the jumps, the canyon jumps, and starts using explosions to hop over from one to the other. Once he's finished with that, he's in first place, but Todoroki and Bakugo are in hot pursuit of him. They get to the minefield, and Deku started to slow down because he didn't want to hit on the mines, and Todoroki and Bakugo caught up. They were having a 3-way battle along while running across the minefield. But Deku eventually grabbed onto both Todoroki and Bakugo's shoulders and blasted them down onto the ground, sending him flying up and then straight into mines, exploding them. It was only a weak explosion, so they didn't get hurt. They got back up, but Deku was already far ahead of them. He got past the minefield and eventually got to the finish line, becoming first. Everyone else started coming in their places in the race, and I say Bakugo was second, Todoroki third, and because Momo had more training and was better, she was fourth, and then everyone else was like 5th, 6th, or 7th, or whatever. Then we get to the cavalry battle. It is announced, and because Deku has 10 million points, everyone looks at him. But a lot of his classmates know about how powerful he is, and more people actually decide to go with him. He was able to get Ida. No, actually no, because Ida. Yeah, okay. He was able to get. I'm trying to think who would be good for this. Yeah, Araka joined him, Momo joined him, and one other person. Who would be confident with him? let's say, yeah, okay, whatever. Let's just go with Tokiyami with his Dark Shadow. Deku goes up top and because of the light combination with Dark Shadow, he tries not to use explosions as much. So when the race starts, everyone starts going after Deku and his 10 million points. He tells Tokiyami to put his Dark Shadow away and just starts setting off explosions up in the air, blowing everyone back. In like how Bakugo did it versus Uraraka in the sports festival finals. He used the wind pressure from explosions going up, blowing everyone back, so they couldn't get close. Todoroki started to approach, and Tokiyami used his Dark Shadow to protect Deku and the headband from Todoroki's attack. Because Todoroki didn't have Momo in this timeline, the Dark Shadow was able to get to Todoroki instead of getting blocked by Momo, and takes Todoroki's headband. He adds it to his own. He adds it around. He puts Todoroki's headband around his neck, and then Todoroki decides to leave them for now and frees a couple of people and get their headband. Bakugo comes straight after Deku trying to get his headband, jumping off of Kirishima and the other two. Is it Mina and Kirishima, Mina, and who's the last person? Oh, I can't remember, but he jumps over, starts blasting towards Deku, and in an instant, Deku just puts his hand forward at Bakugo's face, grabbing it and blasting him away. He lands onto the floor, and because you don't get disqualified if you fall on the floor, he slowly gets back up because he's quite hurt and gets back on his horse. Gets back onto the top of the cavalry. It all ends, and Bakugo was able to collect some other points, but he came in third, Todoroki second, and Deku's team first. It now goes on to the sports festival finals, the 1v1s. Of course, Deku still goes against Shinso. Because Deku was notified by Ojiro about the mind control, and he was more confident. He didn't lose his temper against Shinso and didn't say anything, immediately rushing over to Shinso, blasting him and sending him out the arena, then giving Shinso advice about how he should train his body and not constantly moaning about having a weak quirk. Shinso stood up and walked away, and out of the arena. Deku followed and went out. The other battles went the same, even more as Bakugo. When it was Bakugo versus Uraraka, he only used one for all to push her out the ring instead of blasting her away. The fight against Todoroki and Momo actually wins in this time because she's more skilled and more confident with herself. After that, it was Deku versus Todoroki. As soon as Midnight says go, Todoroki sends massive glacier of ice towards Deku. Deku just using one big explosion and blasting it away, completely destroying it. Deku then starts to rush over, getting stopped by another wall of ice, and just keeps on exploding, every single wall of ice getting thrown at him. He eventually blasts around the ice and gets close enough to Todoroki to blast him in the stomach, sending him nearly out of the ring, but Todoroki was able to block himself from going out with a bit of ice. Deku starts edging Todoroki on to use his fire side, but he just won't budge. Eventually, Deku says, "It's your quirk, not his." And the thing with Endeavor didn't happen before the fight, so yeah. Todoroki eventually uses his fire side, blasting a big pillar of fire towards Deku, and they're both using their final moves. Todoroki using his ice and fire at the same time, making a massive attack, and then Deku using his most powerful move. Let's call it World Devastation Impact. Something like that. It's just a massive explosion. It's like a massive explosion, but not big enough. It's not like big enough to destroy the whole world or whatever. But he just named it that. He sends it off. He does the same motion as how Bakugo did against Todoroki, like spinning around and then putting his hand out in front of him and letting off a big explosion. He wins against Todoroki, with Todoroki getting sent out of the arena and unconscious, while Deku was also sent out of the arena, but he was still standing and not unconscious. All the other matches go the same. Deku wins against Ida by blasting him in the leg before he can use reciprocal burst and hit him. Okay, and now it's the last fight. Deku versus Momo was defeated by Bakugo, but she did really well against him. It was Deku versus Bakugo. Bakugo tried to use One for All to get behind Deku, but Deku was making a wall of explosions, so Bakugo couldn't get close enough. He used one big explosion on the floor, sending Deku flying up into the sky, and then constantly blasting massive explosions down onto the arena, releasing lots of heat and destruction. Bakugo was injured and got back up. He blasted up saying, "I'm gonna get you! It's okay! I'm gonna show you who's better!" And send off an explosion, hitting Deku, sending him down to the ring. Deku was just barely able to save himself from slamming into the ground by letting off a little explosion, slurring his descent. There we go. Bakugo then blasted down, trying to use a big explosion. His final move, Howitzer Impact, to get it over quickly, because his arms are already starting to hurt from having a harder battle with a Momo. He uses a big explosion. He uses his biggest explosion, Howitzer Impact, and the explosion was so big that no one could see what was going on. But then they heard an even bigger noise. Deku let off one of his meteor impacts, completely swallowing Bakugo's explosion, and surrounding him in fire and dust, burning him and knocking him out. Bakugo falls to the ground, and Deku standing there victorious. After the battles are over, after the match, Deku and Bakugo and Momo actually stand at the podiums. Deku in first. Bakugo was able to accept the fact that his brother was stronger than him. He didn't have to get tied up. He just accepted that he was second. I know this doesn't sound like Bakugo, but he's not as bad of a person as he is in the canon, in this story. And Momo was third. All Might congratulates all of them, and the sports festival has ended. Okay, guys, thank you for watching, and, well, goodbye. See you in the next episode.